Well, thanks a lot. And let me tell you that it's a pleasure to join you today on your last day, which is where you are at your maximum. It's like in sport, you know, you are best when you've been training for weeks and weeks and weeks, and that's the last day. And let me thank Dita for this introduction, which was short and precise. I know that many of you are government officials, scholars, students, and even representatives of business and civil society. You've all been well trained, and you've all worked hard. And what I hope is that this sort of program, and I want to thank all the organizers for that, is both useful and beneficial to you. As you know, our previous plans were for me to address you physically down there in the Philippines due to last-minute cancellations, which we are all aware of. I had to cancel this trip to the ASEAN Summit and can only join you today and thanks to modern technology. In order to introduce our discussion, let me address as briefly as possible three issues. First, the global picture of what has changed in global trade today. Second, what we've achieved in the year round so far, and why this round is, in my view, worth fighting for. And three, a bit more focus on the Philippines. What would this round mean for the Philippines? Starting with the global picture, I think it's now well known and a good starting point to any discussion to see how much the pattern of world trade has changed since the GATT, which was, as you know, the WTO predecessor, was created. Trade has become much more prominent as an economic force. During the last 50 years, we've seen a constant increase in the ratio between economic growth and trade. And this change stems mainly from the impact of technology on the international division of labor, on production, and in distribution shifting, both in goods and services. The relative proportion of goods and services has also changed in global trade, as it has in most domestic economies. The geography and the dynamics of change have also, trade have also changed. In the last 10 years, for instance, developing countries' share in international trade has increased from roughly 1/3 to roughly 1/2. The nature of obstacles to trade have also changed. Old instruments like quantitative restrictions or tariffs, even if some are still there, have now been surpassed by non-tariff barriers, technical barriers to trade, standards, regulations, rules of origin, or anti-dumping. Now, has the world order adjusted to these changes? Yes, to some extent. The international system of trade rules has been built progressively over the last 50 years. It has a solid ideological basis, which is comprised of two pillars. First pillar, trade opening is good. Second pillar, trade opening is better if done multilaterally. The playing field is larger and its leveling is more efficient. The increase in the size of the markets and of the number of participants leads to efficiency gains stemming from a better allocation of factor to production, of comparative advantages, of economies of scale. and experience also strengthens our belief that protectionism does not work. And this lesson of history, particularly obvious in the last century, triggered the same movement after the Second World War in trade as it did in other areas like finance or security, namely that stability, security, openness have to be organized multilaterally to be sustainable. And over the past 50 years, different rounds of multilateral negotiations, the GATT and then the WTO, has built an international trade order. There is an international trade order today. Industrial tariffs have dropped from an average of 40% to now 4% for developed countries. Quotas have been eliminated in manufacturers. Disciplines on subsidies, disciplines on sanitary measures, on technical barriers to trade and intellectual property have been established. Services markets have been opened. Implementation of these disciplines has been boosted by the establishment of a dispute settlement mechanism, which is a litigation and adjudication system, which is quite unusual in the international scene. But of course, this system needs updating, permanent updating, in order to adjust to economic, technological and geopolitical changes that haven't stopped and will not stop. This is why the ministers have agreed to launch this new round of multilateral negotiations in 2001. The last update took place in 1995, which was the end of the Euro round. But, you know, obviously it's getting a bit old and obsolete. The changing world requires members to keep reducing tariffs and subsidies, to continue to improve existing rules, to continue to open services markets and create new rules and new areas where we have new problems. Which leads me to my second point, which is this go around and globally speaking and generally speaking, why is it worth fighting for? Starting with where we are in this go-around negotiations, which I will spend a few minutes on. This negotiation is the most ambitious attempt that governments have yet made to open up trade multilaterally because of its scope, not only in the hardcore of agriculture, but because also of the number of countries that are negotiating and that will share in the results. As you probably know now, there are over 20 negotiating areas in the round. And let me very briefly look at just 5 of them, which I see have an important impact on trade overall. Starting, of course, with agriculture, which is a sector which covers less than 8% of world trade goods, so a small portion of international trade, but which is highly politically sensitive to both developed and developing countries. The previous round, the Euro round, created the first comprehensive set of multilateral trade rules on agriculture. Agricultural tariffs of developed countries had to be reduced by an average of 36% at the time. Trade distorting agricultural subsidies of